What if Jon Snow didn't kill Daenerys Targaryen? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Daenerys stands over the ruins of King's Landing with Jon Snow behind her as she makes her new proclamation as the one and only Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. With new titles comes new responsibilities, starting with some unpleasant business regarding her former hand, Tyrion Lannister. Daenerys wanted to kill him and have him executed, just like other traitors. However, Jon Snow advocated for mercy, as he committed no treason. He convinces her to exile him instead, and strips him of his title to Casterly Rock. But with the remaining great houses loyal to her, Daenerys can now move on with her plan to free the slaves of the world. However, her armies are badly mauled after her campaign in the Seven Kingdoms. She would need to raise fresh levies elsewhere, Dragon's Bay. She insists that Jon Snow join her, saying that as her king, it is only right he sees his subjects from across the narrow sea. But this is also partially because she does not like the idea of leaving him alone in the Seven Kingdoms. She appoints a council of lords to rule in Westeros. When they arrive in Dragon's Bay, they are greeted with tears and flower petals. In contrast to the war and destruction of Westeros, this is a welcome change, and Daenerys has continued to be hailed as the mother. Jon Snow is given a welcome like no other, where he is treated like a hero, and for once does not feel like a bastard. She issues a call to arms in response to the freedmen, telling them about her dream and how she vows to free every slave across the known world. As former slaves, she hopes that they will rally to her cause, but few answer the call.
I don't understand. Surely former slaves of all people understand the horrors of slavery. Why will they not rise?
This land is at peace. For the small folk like this, it's all they care about. Wars across the world do not interest them.
Then I will make them see. I cannot do this without them.
Rather than let the matter rest, Daenerys requires all former slavers to send one member of their family to join her new army, as well as any freedmen who own a certain amount of property. Grey Worm and Jon enforce these policies. Jon has little sympathy for slavers and conscripts them. Most of these soldiers are drilled, much like Unsullied, learning to use the spear and shield. The first target is the remaining Jaskari cities around Dragon's Bay. Although Meereen, Yunkai, and Astapor are the largest and most prominent, there are a few smaller cities like Talos and Illyria. Taking flight on Drogon, Daenerys strikes Talos first, while Jon Snow and Grey Worm lead the Unsullied to Mantaris. From the dead of night, Drogon appears from Talos' harbor. His sleek black form is practically hidden in the night until he opens his mouth and unleashes a column of fire at the ships below. Sailors can only scream as they leap into the water or are burned to nothingness. The entire navy goes up in flame, while soldiers desperately scramble to try and counterattack. Archers fire and ballista are rolled forward, but these are too slow, and their smaller bolts do little to stop Drogon, but give him new targets. By morning, the coastal parts of the city are reduced to blackened scar, while Drogon retreats to a nearby ridge to rest. This message is clear, and soon a delegation is sent, agreeing to lay down their arms and join the Queen's coalition. Soon, the nearby cities like Illyria follow suit, but they do not get off so easily. Daenerys recalls their support for the Masters and orders that a powerful garrison be placed in their city. Grey Worm also reports similar success in Mantaris, where his eunuchs scale the walls of the monstrous city. They soon free the slaves in the city and turn them against their vile masters. She recalled how they had murdered her envoys and ordered their masters to be murdered and their families sent to Meereen as hostages, while fresh troops were levied in her captured city. Jon Snow warns Daenerys of being too harsh on the captured cities and warns that she may soon face a rebellion. As he says this, he thinks back to the things he saw during the sack of King's Landing and hopes to avoid a repeat of that. Hopefully, Daenerys doesn't resort to that, though she does impose garrisons and forces them to accept an appointed governor, as well as send soldiers and supplies for her next attack on New Gis itself. Unlike the other cities, New Gis is heavily populated with a large army. Their lockstep legions will give them a strong fight. To conquer it, Daenerys gathers her forces further west. She orders that the gold from the Westerlands, gained from the Reach, ships from the Iron Islands, and soldiers from all over the Seven Kingdoms come to supplement her armies. Although Westeros has had some time to rebuild, they do not believe that they are ready for a large-scale war so quickly. However, Daenerys is adamant and orders these soldiers to be sent. By the time the soldiers arrive, New Gis is ready, its harbor full of warships and its walls bristling with siege engines and archers. Below, the lockstep legions of New Gis stand in rigid formations, shields polished to gleam off the sun and their spears ready. Daenerys Targaryen surveys the scene from the saddle of Drogon. Around her sound the cries of her army. The Dothraki scream their war cries from the eastern dunes. In the center are the Unsullied legions in perfect order, mixed in with Westerosi and Dragon's Bay conscripts. On the other side are lines of gleaming knights. This will not be like Meereen or Astapor. New Gis had prepared for her. The lockstep legions were disciplined, drilled, and fortified beyond high walls. And they had allies, mercenaries from the free cities, war galleys in the harbor, and countless slaves conscripted to fight.
Today we break the chains of New Gis, the first of the great slaving cities. We bring freedom to its slaves and justice to its masters.
The Dothraki thunder forward first, a tidal wave of hooves and steel. Their charge smashes into the outer defenses with terrifying speed, but the defenders hold firm. Javelins rain down from the walls, cutting down riders and horses alike. The lockstep legions advance methodically, their shield walls absorbing the impact of the charge and striking back with deadly precision. She pulls them back and instead has them fire their arrows at the legions once they are densely packed. This disrupts their formation slightly and gives the Unsullied a chance to advance, meeting them head-on. Siege engines rumble into place, hurling stones and flaming debris at the walls. With the defenders distracted, Drogon launches strafing runs at the enemy forces, though Daenerys is careful to avoid getting too close to the ballista. Jon Snow leads the cavalry charges, as the knights are like a mailed fist and crash into the sides of the legion. Hundreds fall in this initial charge, but rather than fold up, two legions twist to meet their threat, locking their shields and crouching behind them as they thrust their spears up. Here, corpses pile up by the hundreds as soldiers struggle to break through. They are like a wave crashing against a rocky shore. With each attack, their forces weaken. At sea, New Gis's warships unleash volleys of fire arrows at Yara's fleet, setting several ships ablaze, and turning the sea into an ocean of blood and corpses. The lockstep legions, reinforced by mercenaries, begin to push back, focusing on the weakened right flank of the slaves. A salient forms in their lines as the slaves begin to break. Jon Snow rides to rally them, but their forces have taken a beating, and he's greeted by the sight of pure carnage as hundreds lay hacked away and on the verge of death. It seems like they are about to break, but Daenerys dives low, just out of arrow range, as her dragon's shadow covers them all.
Forward! We are the breakers of chains.
Spurred by her presence, the freedmen begin to rally and redouble their efforts. Surprised by this aggression, the legions are pushed back and divert their forces to counter the charge. The remaining horsemen form another attack, and this time they manage to break through. The gates are knocked down, and the fighting spills onto the city. The Dothraki surge through the breach, their curved blades carving a bloody path. But New Gis was ready. Traps had been laid in the narrow alleys, pits lined with spikes, vats of boiling oil, and barricades bristling with defenders. For every street the attackers took, they paid a heavy price. It is only because of Drogon and his fiery breath that burns through the defenses, leveling large portions of the city. The city was hers, but at a terrible cost. Thousands of her men lay dead or dying, and the streets ran red with blood. Jon Snow sees all of this from the ground, surveying the carnage as there is not a street or alleyway not coated in blood. Some are so choked up that they clog the passage. New Gis gets off worse as their legions are reduced to nothing, and much of the city is reduced to ash. Freed slaves cheer her name, but their joy is not shared by her soldiers. Many of them come to her, asking to be sent home, but each one who approaches, they all receive the same answer. The wheel is not yet broken. So long as there is a city that trades slaves, it will never be finished. Her resolve troubles her troops, who begin to fear a cycle of endless war. As freedmen cheer, Westerosi soldiers begin to feel more and more like slaves.
Your soldiers are exhausted, Daenerys. They've sailed from all over your empire and won this battle. Now many are questioning why they're here at all. Some just want to go home. This war...
This is not just a war. This is a crusade for justice, for freedom, and it must continue. So long as cities like Karth and free cities profit from chains, the wheel is not broken.
No one's questioning the justice of your cause, Your Grace. But even the best armies need time to recover. Pushing them now, without rest, risks breaking them. The free cities are wealthy, powerful, and, most importantly, connected. Some Jaskari ships escaped. They're warning Karth, Koha, and the rest as we speak.
And we'll meet them.
Begging your pardon, Your Grace, but that's easy for you to say flying high and mighty on your dragon. For us lads on the ground, battles aren't as clean.
It's true. The casualties here were heavy.
And what of you, Snow? Did you bother to see how many of your people we had to bury in this battle? I chartered a ship just to bring back the bodies of my men. You're asking men to die for cities they've never even heard of.
Answer me, gentlemen. If the people of Westeros are enslaved, would you hesitate to fight for them? Would you abandon them to their fate?
With how much fighting I've had to do, I'm starting to feel like one. This isn't about hesitation. It's about strategy. The free cities have deeper coffers than we could ever hope to match. They'll hire every sellsword from here to Volantis, and build fleets to rival even your dragons.
And if I stop now, what happens? Karth will rebuild its fleets. Koha will forge its blades with the blood of slaves. If I stop, the wheel grows stronger, the chains tighter. We keep going.
The room falls silent. Slowly, the other advisors get to their feet and leave without another word.
This one is ready to follow, but we are few. Many do not understand. They lack our strength.
Then make them see, my friend. Train them in your ways so they will have your spirit.
If I may, perhaps I should take command of the Westerosi. Let me try to speak to their lords.
However, she does receive some good news from Karth. They are ready to negotiate terms of surrender. Daenerys personally journeys to Karth to talk with them. She meets with their ambassadors, and they agree to halt the slave trade, release the slaves in the city, and provide Daenerys with support in her war effort. But none of this does anything to dull their pride or arrogance. I have heard that you intend to make war in the free cities.
Your spies serve you well.
I do not require spies for this. Every fishwife and slave in the continent knows of your plans. The free cities are preparing, building their armies, and forming a coalition. Your empire will bleed itself dry upon the disputed lands.
You are awfully prideful for one who surrendered to the might of a dragon, or the ferocity of the Dothraki.
Your army is formidable, but your empire is weak. To have such a thing guarantees its collapse. While there are talks of invasion in the free cities, there are also talks of war in your people. Your people of Westeros despise you, and your armies in Slaver's Bay are exhausted. Whether you win or lose against the free cities, your empire will die there. Daenerys says nothing, simply accepting the city's surrender and then flying off without another word. But as she returns to Dragon's Bay, the ambassador's words prove prophetic as her camp is on the verge of war.
Your Grace, the camp is on the brink of chaos. The men fight among themselves. Freedmen against former slave. Westerosi against Jaskari. And Dothraki against everyone. Many more have deserted.
What has been done to restore order?
Jon Snow and I have tried, but the divisions run deep. They grow restless, questioning why they remain out here.
Daenerys finds Jon in his pavilion, trying to mediate between a group of Westerosi and Jaskari. Despite his best efforts, the only thing that truly keeps them united is Daenerys and her dragon. When neither one is there, their unity collapses. Their argument has developed into a shouting match as Jon tries to calm them down to no avail. Things look like they will devolve into a fight until Daenerys steps forward.
Enough! We're supposed to be fighting together, not tearing each other apart.
His voice is shouted down as Drogon rises, his jaw wide as he releases a blast of fire into the sky. The soldiers flinch, their arguments dying instantly as they turn to face her.
You call yourselves my army, Yet you fight each other like children squabbling over scraps. Look around you. Do you see the enemy here? Or are you so blind that you would destroy yourselves before you even reach the battlefield? And you, Jon, you were charged with keeping this army together.
I've done what I can, Daenerys. But this army is not like the Night's Watch or the North. They don't share the same purpose, the same cause.
Then make them share it. You fight for me because I fight for freedom. For a world without chains, without masters, without division. If you cannot see that, if you cannot fight as one, then you have no place in my army.
Suddenly, one Northman stands up and spits.
Fine by me.
The Lord marches off, and suddenly others begin to nod.
Finally, something we can agree on.
The captain motions for his men to follow. Several other Westerosi follow. Then, the freedmen glance at one another and follow after. Soon the group is growing larger and larger, but the rest remain cowed by Drogon's presence.
And what if they don't believe in this war, Daenerys? What then?
Then they will follow me, whether they believe it or not.
Jon watches her for a long moment, his face unreadable, before turning away. Behind her, Drogon lets out another low growl, a warning to anyone who might still harbor thoughts of rebellion. Still, Daenerys realizes one thing, and that is staying there is pointless, and begins her march to the free cities. Rather than attack Volantis, she leads them northwest to the weaker cities of Qohor, Norvos, and Lorauth. These cities fall without much fight, and soon their slave markets burn, their defenders scatter, and morale is lifted. And not too far away is Braavos, a free city named for its opposition to slavery, and Daenerys flies out there to try and seek allies. As she approaches the Titan of Braavos, Daenerys feels a flicker of hope. The Braavosi champions of liberty should see her as a kindred spirit, but when she meets with the leaders of the Iron Bank, their reception is far colder than she imagined.
We admire your resolve, Queen Daenerys, but Braavos will not join your war.
You oppose slavery, as do I. Why would you stand against me?
Because we oppose tyranny in all its forms, even when it comes wrapped in the banner of liberation.
And who better to judge tyranny than you, Daenerys Stormborn?
A familiar voice echoes through the chamber. The dwarf offers a cold smile as he saunters his way over to sit beside Tycho.
Tyrion, what are you doing here?
Surviving. Enjoying the sights. Something you've made rather difficult for the rest of us. Life in Westeros has gotten quite depressing since you left.
With all due respect, this man betrayed me. I will not suffer his presence.
And with all due respect to you, Braavos is a free city. I will not order this man about like a servant. Besides, you may wish to hear what he has to say. You will claim Westeros betrayed you, but the Lords of the Seven Kingdoms bowed to you and hailed you as their queen. And what did you do? You left them to return to your Dragon's Bay, taking their sons into this war they did not want. That is why I've come to inform you that they've joined the free cities in this war, unless you can come to terms.
Then I will bring fire and blood everywhere.
And what will that accomplish, Your Grace? Burn us all? Make slaves of those who refuse you?
I am not a slaver.
No? Tell me, what is a slave truly? Someone who lives under the will of another. Someone who has no choice but to obey. Sound familiar? You've become the greatest slaver of them all. You bind armies with fear, and your people with fire, and you've convinced yourself it's for their good. Though no man in your army wears a collar, you have no choice in who they serve.
You think your words will stop me, Tyrion? Do you think they mean anything? You wanted terms? Here are mine. Join me, or burn.
You will be warned, Mother of Dragons. Your ancestors made such a claim before, but we did not bow then, and we shall not bow now.
The battlefield outside Pentos is a storm of chaos and flames. Daenerys, perched atop Drogon, surveys the armies arrayed against her. The combined forces of the Free Cities and Westerosi rebels stretch across the horizon. She recognizes Tyrion's bannisters on the far right flank, alongside the other Westerosi sigils. Beside them are the mixed forces of the Free Cities, and beyond are the hordes of sellswords they hired. Her forces stand resolute. The Unsullied form an unbreakable wall in the center. To their right, the Westerosi soldiers loyal to Daenerys face the sellswords, chosen specifically to avoid countrymen fighting countrymen. On the left, the Jaskari troops stand ready to meet their Westerosi counterparts. Daenerys raises her hand, signaling the Dothraki. The Screamers charge, their war cries echoing across the plain. They thunder toward the flanks, looking to envelop the army who keep their cavalry close, knowing that it will be pointless to send them against the Dothraki. But as they near, crushing the grass underfoot, several trebuchets fire, throwing not stones or pitch, but massive pots of wildfire. The ground erupts in emerald flames as the wildfire is released, engulfing the grasslands. The Dothraki are thrown into chaos, their horses screaming as they roar and bolt, hurrying to outrace the flames. The once mighty charge stalls, funneling what remains of her forces into narrow, pre-cleared paths on the flanks where the grass has been trimmed. Daenerys' soldiers hesitate, but advance through these paths to the enemy spears. The Unsullied fearlessly press forward, meeting their spears with their own, fighting through walls of pikes even as they are impaled. But those who manage to fight through begin to hack at the pikemen. The same is true with the Jaskari, who form a tight shield wall and hunch behind their defenses, letting the Westerosi men batter themselves against their defenses. On the left, sellswords and Westerosi clash in a match of slavery and desperation with sword and axe and spear, with the others fight in careful formation. This battle descends into an act of butchery as thousands of single fights form around them. The fight is brutal, but short. The smell of burning flesh and the sight of their comrades consumed by green flames sap their will to fight. The Free Cities' disciplined phalanxes and Westerosi rebels press their advantage. Their cavalry, kept close to their formation and fresh from the fighting, galloped forward, smashing through the exhausted ranks and starting to break them. High above, Daenerys clenches her fists, her fury blinding. She sees Tyrion at the rear of the Westerosi line, his banner unmistakable. Her rage boils over.
Dracarys.
Drogon roars, his massive wings beating as he swoops toward Tyrion's position. The dragon's fire consumes the ground as he flies, leaving a path of destruction in his wake. Lannister troops scatter as they try to escape the camp, and it goes up in flames. However, Tyrion remains where he is, sitting in his tent and calmly sipping wine. This is just as he expected. He had gone to Braavos not to negotiate. That opportunity had long since passed. Instead, he wanted to bait Daenerys, to get her to kill him. The last thing the dwarf hears is the ground erupting. Not just dragonfire, but with a relentless barrage of artillery and ballista fire that he had hidden in his camp. He smiles as he bursts into a ball of fire. Drogon roars in pain as 1, 2, 3 bolts strike him, piercing his scales. He thrashes violently, but the onslaught is unrelenting. With a final anguished cry, Drogon crashes to the ground, right in the midst of the wildfire. Daenerys miraculously survives the fall, though she is thrown violently from Drogon's back. Dazed and battered, she stumbles to her feet. All around her is fire and death. Her army is in full retreat, the Jaskari scattering, the Westerosi turning on each other. The Unsullied hold their ground to the last, but are slaughtered to the last man. Daenerys falls to her knees, her vision blurred by smoke and tears. She hears the jeers of the rebels, the clash of swords, and the dying screams of her once great army. Around her, the world burns, but not by her command. Amidst the ruin, Daenerys Targaryen walks off alone. After the battle, Jon Snow is brought into Pentos, where his sisters are waiting. Arya stands there, needle in hand, while Sansa is dressed all in black. At once, Jon Snow knows what is about to happen and bows his head.
I'm not here to make excuses. Whatever you have to do, just do it.
Just know we take no joy in this.
If you have any final words, I'll hear them.
Jon says nothing. His mind is still in shock at all the death and destruction he's seen. The fire, the violence, all caused by Daenerys and her crusade. He thinks back to what Tyrion told him in the cells so long ago, and wonders how things might have changed.
Do your duty, as I failed to do mine.
Arya nods and drives a needle into his heart. With Daenerys gone, her Targaryen empire falls with her. Westeros fractures into different kingdoms, as no clear heir can take her place. Meanwhile, Dragon's Bay turns into a series of city-states. However, while many masters wish to retake their power, the freedmen have already obtained far too much power in the military, economy, and politics. This means that simply throwing them into servitude is no longer an option. The cities continue to outlaw slavery, and with the loss of the largest slave markets, other cities now struggle to meet this demand. Far from destroying it in its entirety, slavery is at least put into decline, allowing places like Braavos to exert more control over them. That's our theory. Westeros is a land filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey across the Seven Kingdoms and beyond, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.